Hello there. Welcome to Pocono Mountains Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Hamill. Now that this podcast is no longer an infant, it's a whole year old now. We're going to dust off some of the early episodes where we took deep dives on the local Pocono history, and we'll mix in some new aspects of what's happening around the region too. Don't worry, we have a ton of new conversations to share with you as well coming up, from the newest restaurant inside Kalahari Resorts and Conventions to learning about what it takes to work your way up at a nationally recognized brewery in the Pocono Mountains. Those are just a few of the fun episodes on the way. But for this Pocono Mountains podcast Flashback, we're learning all about Jim Thorpe, the historic town which is named after the legendary athlete of the same name. More on that in a bit. The Poconos is a year-round destination for millions, and with 2,400 square miles of forests, lakes, mountains, and rivers, with historic downtowns and iconic family resorts, it's the perfect getaway. You can always find out more on PoconoMountains.com or watch PTN, the Pocono Television Network, streaming live 24/7. That's at PoconoTelevision.com. Thanks for listening to Pocono Mountains Podcast. We'll have a new episode each week, highlighting lots of the fun things you can experience while you're visiting the Poconos. Subscribe and leave a review and or comment on whatever platform you listen. Back to the episode now. Last March, we first shared the conversation between Brianna Strunk and State Representative Doyle Heffley of Carbon County. Here is that conversation again with a little nostalgia for the first episode of this podcast. Enjoy. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this inaugural edition of Pocono Mountains Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Jim Hamill, with our first episode of many to come for listeners. First, Brianna sits down with State Representative Doyle Heffley. He's a hometown boy from Jim Thorpe in Carbon County, which is often referred to as the Switzerland of Pennsylvania because of its quaint, architecturally rich downtown. There's a Pocono Mountains Visitor Center in the heart of the downtown at the train station, where you can catch a ride along the Lehigh River, and so much more to do while you're in town. Now, Brianna and Representative Heffley from an episode of Pocono Perspectives.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Brianna with Pocono Perspectives. We are at the beautiful and historic in Jim Thorpe, talking with State Representative Doyle Heffley about the town of Jim Thorpe. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
So let's jump right into it, the history of Jim Thorpe. This town was founded for coal mining and was the home to the United States' first industrial railroad. Can you talk a little bit about that?
The town was actually founded in 1818 by Josiah White and Erskine Hazard, who started the town, and eventually the coal production of anthracite coal in the region. Really, Jim Thorpe became a transportation hub with a switchback railroad leading that coal down to market, getting it to the market through the Lehigh River, and several of the dams and the different infrastructure they'd built on the river until they eventually built the Lehigh Canal to really get that product moving into Easton and Philadelphia.
And back to those coal mining days, with the beautiful Victorian structures here in Jim Thorpe that we see today, I mean, they're really amazing. A lot of people who come to visit come to see those beautiful structures, so they're historic in themselves.
Yeah, with the mining operations nearby in the Panther Valley and really bringing the coal into Jim Thorpe in order to get it to the Lehigh River, because that was the key. So they had this switchback railroad, brought the coal down, and then they would dam up the river in different areas and transport that coal to the markets, and really fueled the early beginnings of the Industrial Revolution. And along with that came wealth, and with that wealth, then you had folks that started to invest in the town and build a lot of these beautiful buildings, which are still standing today.
And in those coal mining days, we had a lot of prominent people that lived in Jim Thorpe.
Yeah, Josiah White and Erskine Hazard, who started the town, and then as time went through and evolved, you had Asa Packer, who moved from Connecticut down to Jim Thorpe and did some construction work, and then actually wound up working on the canal until he made his investments in the railroad. And as you could say, that the rest of that is history. I mean, the influence that Asa Packer has had then in this town to this day yet, and in the entirety of Pennsylvania, northeastern PA, and to Lehigh University and beyond has just been phenomenal.
Going back to the Switchback Railroad in the 1800s, it really became a tourist attraction at one point. It was kind of like a roller coaster for people who came here.
The beauty in this area has always been here, the natural beauty of the Lehigh Gorge. And when they started moving those products down into the markets in Easton and Philadelphia, people started coming back up, first on the boats and then on the trains. And one of the things that was really fascinating, was dubbed the world's first roller coaster, was after the Switchback Railroad was no longer used primarily to haul coal, they would haul people. And it was the first roller coaster ride really anywhere in the world that took you down. It was a gravity-fed downhill ride. And people would come from all over to enjoy that.
And at one point, Jim Thorpe was the most visited place in America besides Niagara Falls because of that tourist attraction.
They were number 2 to Niagara Falls. You had the Glenanoka and just the scenic beauty of the Lehigh Gorge, the Switchback Railroad, and the shopping and markets and everything here. It really is a fascinating history.
So Jim Thorpe wasn't always named Jim Thorpe. It started out as Mock Chunk.
Yes.
Talk about the name change and how that came about.
Well, Mock Chunk is an Indian phrase. The Lenapian Indians, which were native to this area, had named it Mock Chunk. If you ever get the opportunity when traveling to Jim Thorpe to go up on top of Flagstaff Mountain, and you look out, and if you look at what they call Bear Mountain, it kind of looks like a bear lying on its side with its legs out and its head turned to its side. And if you look and study it for a while, you'll see what the Indians were referring to when they called that sleeping bear, and that was Mock Chunk, and that's hence the name Mock Chunk. That's what the town was originally named after that Indian phrase.
And then how did we get to Jim Thorpe?
Well, Jim Thorpe, like many towns during the Industrial Revolution, when coal was king, railroads were king, and transportation, the markets were booming, the town was growing, and the economy was just very vibrant. You had at one point, Jim Thorpe was one of the wealthiest towns in America. We had 7 to 9 millionaires that lived right here. Hence, you had the Victorian architecture and buildings. And what happened as coal, the demand for anthracite coal kind of teetered off and other markets came on, what we had was the shifting of an economy. And when this economy shifts, as we see in different cycles, there's communities that maybe are left out. And Jim Thorpe was struggling, or Mock Chunk. They had East Mock Chunk, which is on the east side of the river, and Mock Chunk here on the north side of the river, or the west side of the river. They decided to merge in 1954. And Joe Boyle, who was a local sports writer, was contacted by Jim Thorpe's wife. I think it was Patricia Thorpe, who had advertised to to bring Jim Thorpe's body to Jim Thorpe. At that point, there was a lot of talk of building a Hall of Fame football museum and a mausoleum and other things here in Jim Thorpe. The mausoleum was built. The town, in a 10-to-1 vote, the whole town turned out to vote. The vote was almost 10-to-1 in favor of merging East Mock Chunk and Mock Chunk and renaming the town Jim Thorpe after the athlete of the century. Pretty much the father of modern day football and baseball and basketball. The gentleman just couldn't, there was no sport they didn't accelerate at, and they adopted that name and took on that legacy, and they do a lot today to still honor that.
And he's buried here.
Yes, his body is interred in the mausoleum on the east side, and when you come to visit Jim Thorpe, take the time to drive up past the mausoleum and just, you can appreciate the athlete that he was and the man that he was and what he meant for this country. I mean, really, his feats in the 1912 Olympics are to this day noted as really the founding of the Olympic Games.
And we see that one great picture of him wearing mismatched shoes and mismatched socks, and then he went on to win the Olympics. It really shows that he overcame adversity, and he's rough and tough, and it kind of says a lot about Jim Thorpe of the town too.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, and you know, Jim Thorpe, where they were in the 50s to where they are now in 2019, in the over 200-year history now of Mock Chunk, now Jim Thorpe, how they've reinvented themselves, and they kind of shrugged off the coal dust and moved forward. They picked themselves up by their bootstraps, if you want to say that. And Jim Thorpe, the athlete, really embodies that. I mean, he had a gentleman who had a very rough life. His twin brother died when he was very young, and he moved to the Carlisle school, a boys' school for Indians. And at that point in our country's history, it wasn't we didn't have all the shared values and equal values rights that we have today, and he struggled because of that. And we want to make sure that we're doing right by the legacy of Jim Thorpe, what a tremendous athlete he was, and making sure that he gets all the respect and admiration that he duly deserves.
Let's move on from the history in those early days of Jim Thorpe. Did Jim Thorpe, the town, go through a revitalization at any point?
Yeah, I spoke a little bit earlier about growing up in Packerton, which is just right up by Flagstaff Mountain. When I was young, there were a lot of opportunities here in Jim Thorpe. In the 70s, it became one of the first towns to get registered with a National Historic Preservation Site. And in the early 80s, the Lehigh Coal and Navigation Building, which is kind of it's right next door to the train station. So when you come into downtown Jim Thorpe, it's one of the first buildings you see. It's a beautiful old Victorian building. Was the offices of the old Lehigh Coal Navigation. That building was refurbished, and that was really kind of the catalyst to really start the wave. And then you had several different investors come in, purchase properties, see the opportunity, and start fixing up those properties and bringing the town back to life. One of the things that was also very important was the Mock Chunk watershed. And one of the opportunities in Jim Thorpe was it would flood every spring. The town is built on top of a creek or a creek, however you want to say it. So actually, a lot of the buildings downtown, you can pick up the floor, and the creek is flowing underneath the building. So back in the 1800s, that was great for getting rid of garbage and waste. You just dumped it down, but now we have cleaned the stream up and it's much cleaner. But they built the Mock Chunk watershed, which stopped the flooding in downtown Jim Thorpe, and then people were making those investments and purchasing these properties and fixing up. So it didn't. There was the investment made to the Lehigh Coal Navigation Building, to rehabilitation, the investment made to build the dam, and because of that, people saw it as an opportunity. And what's so unique about Jim Thorpe now is that it's not Disney, right? They don't own the whole town. Individuals own a building. They put in a bed and breakfast. They put in a gift shop that they want to sell items maybe that they made. There's a lot of artists that have come to Jim Thorpe. So it really, you can experience a little bit of everything. There's a pickle shop on Ray Street. I think they have the best pickles, the Country Cottage. So it's that uniqueness that keeps people coming back.
Yeah, I was going to ask what you think about Jim Thorpe today. I mean, the beautiful walkable downtown, you have these gorgeous Victorian structures and all the shops. Like you said, really, really a unique place.
Well, you had the opportunities with the Rails to Trail, the DNL Trail, bringing back that coal heritage and history for the Delaware-Lehigh corridor, to have that Rails to Trail. We have the new pedestrian bridge, which brings you right from the trail right into downtown Jim Thorpe, but also ties in Lehighton and Weisport and the heritage and the history and the canal in those communities, and brings it all and ties it all together for the entirety of Carbon County. But there's just so much to do here. If you want to ride a bike, go whitewater rafting, hike the trails, or just walk around the shops, some great restaurants downtown. It's a lot to do, and it's a unique experience that you can't always get at other locations.
So you're pretty much a Jim Thorpe expert. You live in this area. For people who visit, do you have any must-sees or must-dos for them?
I think definitely touring the Asa Packer mansion is definitely one of the things you really want to do, because you walk into that mansion, it's preserved as it was when it was closed up in the early 1900s. Also the old jail, Molly Maguire's, right here in Carbon and Schuylkill County. The trials took place at the courthouse, and the Molly Maguires were hung in the prison right here in Carbon County. The handprint on the wall, to go in and see that handprint on the wall, the Molly put his hand on the wall and said, "This handprint will stay here as a sign of my innocence." St. Mark's Church is just beautiful. Works of art from around the world in that church, which is built into the side of the mountain. Those are three things that I think you definitely want to see. But you also want to get out, ride a bike, hike the trails, and just enjoy everything that there is to offer here.
Where do you see Jim Thorpe in the future?
Well, I think there's always a lot of opportunities, and I think Jim Thorpe will continue to grow. You look at Jim Thorpe, we're located here in the Lehigh Gorge, which the scenery around Jim Thorpe you just can't recreate. It's beautiful. The Lehigh River, the whitewater rafting that goes along with that. But then we also are 20 minutes from 3 great ski resorts: Jack Frost, Big Boulder, Blue Mountain Ski Resort. We have water parks nearby, so you can stay at a quaint Victorian inn like this, like we are right here in the Inn of Jim Thorpe, and experience all there is. And then tomorrow, drive 20 minutes and go skiing in some of the best skiing in the Poconos, and come back and have dinner at Molly's Pub or Moya's or any of the other restaurants, downtown here in Jim Thorpe. And you really get to experience so many different things. When you walk up Broadway or down Ray Street, it could be 2019 or it could be 1820. It's just the feel that you get, and it's something that just happened. It wasn't created to be a tourist destination, but it happened and it's been preserved. And give a lot of credit to the folks that own those buildings, but the community to come together to realize what they have and really preserve it.
Any final thoughts you want to leave us with?
No, I just would encourage people to come out and really, enjoy what Pennsylvania has to offer, what the Pocono Mountains have to offer, what Jim Thorpe has to offer. It's unique, and that's why so many people come back. Be respectful when you're here. Don't leave anything with you or don't leave anything behind besides your footprints. But just to come out, support these communities, and just enjoy the time that you spend here in Carbon County.
State Representative Doyle Heffley, thank you so much for joining us.
Jim Thorpe is just one of those places that leaves you feeling like you visited a place out of a storybook. The architecture, the people, and of course, the outdoors, right there for everyone to enjoy. We'll go along for a journey along the D&L Trail in just a bit.
In the Pocono Mountains, there's always a new season just around the corner.
And no matter what the season, there's always something exciting happening. Winter, spring, summer, or fall. The 4-season Pocono Mountains. Visit us at PoconoMountains.com.
We're back. Brianna also took a trip along the D&L Trail on 2 wheels, starting in Jim Thorpe and heading out several miles along the Lehigh River. Enjoy.
There are so many ways to explore the Pocono Mountains by car, train, plane, boat, and bike. And today we're taking you to a trail that has it all. River views, wildlife, historic ruins. You can stop at several of our small towns. All right, let's go get geared up and head on out. Our first stop, Pocono Biking in Jim Thorpe, where we pick up a new set of wheels.
Are you guys going to be going on the shuttle or just taking it out on the trail?
Just heading out on the trail.
All right, perfect.
They take the time to make sure your ride is the perfect size and fit.
So we offer rental bikes, everything from cabooses for kids as young as 2, all the way up to e-bikes if, say, grandma wants to come, but she can't quite keep up like she used to.
Although the extra assist does sound tempting for someone like me who hasn't been on a bike in years, we'll take the standard for a spin. Next, over the river and through the woods to the D&L Trail we go. We're immediately surrounded by the sights and sounds of nature, with the Lehigh River on one side and this old coal canal on the other.
It's perfect. I mean, it's everything I want as like a city person looking to get out and see new things and find new adventures.
We pedal past historic ruins related to the Industrial Revolution, train tracks, and wildlife.
There's plenty of wildlife, all the way from black bears down to butterflies.
No bear sightings to report here, but at one point we did encounter this. The Delaware and Lehigh Trail is currently 140 miles long, running through 5 Pennsylvania counties from Luzerne to Bucks. Carbon County's section is fully connected, allowing for a continuous, uninterrupted ride.
We have a lot of folks that come out to walk their dogs. Running is a perfect place for fishing, bird watching.
A unique feature, the trail provides easy on and off access to explore award-winning small towns and all they have to offer, from shopping to entertainment to dining.
We're seeing so many more folks coming to visit the towns and get into the businesses, learn more about the local businesses rather than just the box stores.
Chantilly Goods in Weisport is one of the D&L's trail-friendly businesses, offering free water bottle refills, a bike rack, and repair kit. This old-fashioned soda fountain is a great place to take a break.
I know if I were out on the trail, I would want to be able to stop somewhere and get something fresh and cool, and why not provide that for other people?
Pedal a bit further and you'll reach uncommon grounds at the mill, serving fresh coffee, crepes, and more.
Well, all throughout the week, of course on the weekends, people will pop in on their bikes and they come in and they'll grab an iced coffee or like a fruit shake up, and it's a great stop for them.
If one day on the trail just isn't enough, Pocono Biking offers 2- and 4-day trips. The Inn at Jim Thorpe is one place to stay overnight.
We've got an old Victorian hotel that dates from 1849. It's one of the oldest buildings in town that still exists.
Grab some food and drinks next door at the Broadway Grill, serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner 7 days a week.
Jim Thorpe's one of the most historic towns in America. What's great about it is it's well preserved, it's architecturally intact.
From the town back to the trail, a trip on the D&L will never get old, with each section offering something new.
And we're staring at screens all the time. It's really nice to put down the tablet, turn off the monitor, turn off the TV, and really spend some time outdoors.
True to this saying, it's like riding a bike. I got the hang of it pretty quick. This was my first time on the D&L, but certainly not the last. So what are you waiting for? Start planning your trip, and we'll see you on the trail. For Pocono Television Network, I'm Brianna Strunk.
Jim Thorpe and the D&L Trail, the perfect combination for your visit for a weekend getaway or building out an entire itinerary to include on your week-long stay. Thank you so much for listening to Pocono Mountains Podcast. Please remember to subscribe anywhere podcasts are available. And come visit us in the Pocono Mountains. You can plan your trip today, tomorrow, anytime at PoconoMountains.com.